I'm going to break down exactly what the Timberwolves are doing to slow down Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets offense, so let's dive into the film and take a look at some stats. But first, Wolves back.
Howl, beat up game, boy!
Alright, first off, the Timberwolves are literally built for this matchup. Tim Conley, the GM that drafted Nikola Jokic and built most of this Nuggets roster, is now the GM of the Timberwolves, and he's the one who pulled the trigger on the Rudy Gobert trade, pairing him up with Karl Anthony Towns and rolling out one of the biggest rosters in the NBA. He also traded D'Lo for Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, maybe the greatest trade in franchise history, but the Rudy trade in particular felt like a move that was made specifically with this matchup in mind. And while the now three-time MVP Nikola Jokic is virtually impossible to fully shut down, I think the Timberwolves have been doing a great job at just speeding things up for him and making life more difficult on him. And that's resulted in his shooting percentage dropping, plus an uptick in turnovers, and we'll get to that later, but let's talk X's and O's here for a second. So the Nuggets love to open up their offense with the Murray and Jokic pick and roll, as it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the defense and forces them to make a decision between cutting off Murray from getting downhill or overcommitting to Jokic and then letting Murray do his thing. It also helps that they have two knockdown shooters in Michael Porter Jr. and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, both of whom shoot 40% from three and don't really allow defenses to collapse on Jokic and Murray for fear of giving up an open look. In game one though, the Wolves put Cat on Jokic and Rudy on Gordon, which allowed him to roam as the help defender, protecting the rim and offering the occasional support on Jokic. And while Rudy mucking up the paint has definitely hindered Denver's offensive flow, Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker have disrupted things more than anyone. I mean, look, Jaden is 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan and is elite at navigating ball screens to stay in front of his man. Nickeil is just 6'5", but he has an absurd 6'10" wingspan, and what he lacks in height, he more than makes up for with his foot speed and lateral quickness. Don't sleep on Ant's ability to guard the ball either, because we've seen him lock up Murray on more than one occasion in this series. But the trust that the Wolves have in these guys to navigate through screens and cut off Murray is, in a way, their best defense on Jokic. The defender who's guarding Jokic when he sets the screen doesn't have to overhelp on Murray because Jaden and Na get through the screen so quickly, plus if they are a step behind, then they're just funneling Murray right to Rudy Gobert, who's in the paint, as the last line of defense. This also allows the off-ball defenders to stick to their guy and not overhelp and give up open looks. The Nuggets love to get Jokic the ball off the roll and let him play his little two-man game with Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot, but again, Rudy's presence just doesn't make it all that easy. Rudy even makes post-entry passes more challenging, as the primary defender on Jokic can front him and cut off the pass, while Rudy is right behind them if the pass goes over the top. And like I said earlier, it's almost impossible to fully shut down Jokic. He's gotten a handful of buckets on Rudy and one-on-one post-ups, but overall, the Wolves have disrupted the Nuggets' half-court offense and have sped Jokic up just enough to force him into some uncharacteristic turnovers. During the regular season, he averaged 3 turnovers a game, but in the 2 games against Minnesota, he's averaging 5.5. He was also shooting 58% from the field during the season, but he's down to 43% in this series, which is a massive dip. And I know I talked a lot about Rudy's role in this matchup, and obviously he didn't play in game 2, and the Wolves still held the Nuggets to 80 points, their lowest point total of the season. And look, that's a credit to the Wolves' depth and their ability to execute even without the Defensive Player of the Year. Naz Reid has been incredible defensively, and I just found this little stat while in the midst of researching for this video, and get this. Out of all the players in the NBA, Naz ranks first in opposing field goal percentage, holding opponents to just 44.2% shooting. And to make this little stat exercise even crazier, the entire Wolves 8-man playoff rotation is in the top 25 in that category. And this is regular season I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the playoffs where there's way less players because there's half the teams. I'm talking about the entire regular season, all 30 teams. Rudy was 3rd, Kyle Anderson was 5th, Nickeil was 7th, Ant was 10th, Mike Conley was 13th, Jaden was 18th, and Cat was 22nd. That is absolutely insane. Look, there's a reason why this is the top-ranked defense in the NBA. They've fully embraced their identity as a defensive team. Everybody's bought into it. They're flying around on defense and giving maximum effort for 48 minutes. And look, I think a lot of that has to do with Rudy. He's the captain and the anchor of this defense, and the rest of the roster just falls in line. And speaking of Rudy, shout out to the big Frenchman. On Monday, he just welcomed his firstborn son into the world, and the very next day found out that he won Defensive Player of the Year for the 4th time in his career, which ties him with Ben Wallace and Dikembe Mutombo for the most in league history. And it was really cool to see the entire team show up to his press conference, and again, just shows you how connected they all are. Now, with all that being said, I'm sure Jokic is going to drop 50 now that I said the Wolves have figured him out, but look, either way, I'm stoked for game 3. I'm actually going to be at Target Center. I'm sure the atmosphere is going to be electric, so I may or may not have a voice for the recap video on Friday night or Saturday, but We'll see what happens. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys have noticed the Wolves doing to slow Denver's offense down. But until next time, Wolves back.